Connie, fill us in then on your role and what happened.
Okay, so around September 2023, we had to stop living in our home because of black mold. And we moved in with a friend. And during that time, and we lived with a few people, so I don't want to give that away, but we lived with a few different people. And during that time, during one of the places that we stayed at, there was a teenage girl who began confiding in me that she was having private conversations with Tom Keesee in the middle of the night, late night, texting, phone calls. I thought, this is weird. But her parents were her mom specifically was very much like, oh my gosh, like this is the new Tom's wife. Like, I don't want to say her name, but Tom's wife's name is Alexis. And so she was like, this is Ninny Alexis. Like, she's just like Alexis. This is Tom's new best friend. Because Tom's current best friend is going to be getting married. So like she's taken over that position of his best friend. And this girl at the time was 16 and Tom was 38. And I'm like, this is super weird. This is not okay. But okay, the parents are okay with this. So I just didn't know what to do with that.
Ask you further so that I'm really clear on this.
Mm-hmm.
This young lady is confiding that she's meeting with Tom in the middle of the night?
At this point, it was only on the phone. They were texting and phone calling on the phone.
Okay.
Then I had found out that she was going over to his house late night with maybe a sibling. She would bring one of her brothers with her, and they would hang out, fish on the dock or whatever. And I'm thinking to myself, this is weird. It's wrong. I don't know what to do with it because the parents are okay with it. So fast forward a couple of weeks, there is a play at the church that Tom headed up, which was called Fire and Ice. And she ended up texting another teenage boy around that time, and it got back to Tom, and Tom got really mad about it, and Tom acted very jealous towards her, and she showed me the text messages, and there was no reason for jealousy anyways. They're not like married or dating. He's married. She's a teenager. And I was like, girlfriend, like, this is bad. It's wrong. Like, you don't owe him an explanation. He's married. You're a child. Like, this is wrong. He was going out of town for 2 weeks the next day to go on vacation, and she could not let him leave without, like, she had this urgency that she had to talk to him before he went out of town. So I found out the next morning that she had went to his house from 2 a.m. until 8 a.m. alone, unaccompanied, on a fishing dock, hanging out with just Tom. And I couldn't be quiet anymore. I'm like, this is wrong. And at that point, I still truly wanted to believe the best in everyone in the situation. At that point, I was like, we need to protect her. We need to protect her family. We need to protect this ministry. This looks so bad. So I went to her parents, and her parents wrote me off after an extensive conversation. They wrote me off as, basically, you've misunderstood the situation. He's friends with our family. There's nothing to see here. Okay, so then they wrote me off. So I decided to go to leadership. So I went to Alicia Keesee. She was the youth leader at the time, and I went to her and told her about the situation. And she basically.
And could I just ask, is that a daughter, or how is she related?
Alicia Keesee is married to the pastor's other son, Tim.
Oh, to Tim Keesee. This is Alicia Keesee is the wife. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So I went to her, and she's like, oh, okay. So almost alluded like, okay, this makes sense. And she's like, I can't tell you anything else, but you're not wrong. And I believe you, and you're not crazy. And so thank you for telling us. We'll take care of it. Okay, great. I was like, great, I can move on from this. So then the following summer, a couple of months later, I found out he was leading the Vacation Bible School program called Summer Blast. So he was going to be over her and other teenagers and over all of these children that were coming. And I went and met with her again, and I was like, what is happening? Like, he shouldn't be allowed to be around her and all of these other teenagers. Like, this is wrong. And she told me, I've thrown all of the red flags I can throw, but the next thing you could do is go talk to the head pastors, but you have your husband's job to think about. So,
and what did that mean exactly? So the head pastors, would that be Drenda and Gary Keesee?
mhm.
Okay, so she's saying, I've thrown all the red flags I can throw. So she felt like she's done everything she can do, and it's still happening. You could
That's
now,
what I would gather based on the conversation, yeah.
right? And her advice is, well, you can go and talk to the senior pastors if you'd like, but you have to consider your husband's job. And what was your husband's job?
He was the controller for Faith Life Church.
Okay.
And honestly, at the time, like, I was like, well, okay, I could go talk to the pastors, but like, they don't really respond to emails and things like that. So, and I was like, they're just going to cover for their son. And no, I didn't go directly to Gary and Drenda and talk to them. My husband worked directly for Gary, and in the time period he worked for him directly, he only had 2 face-to-face meetings with him. So I knew they were very busy. At one time, Drenda put her hand on my shoulder at a meeting, and she's like, I heard that somebody said something, but we'll talk about this. And I never heard from her.
Did you feel that Drenda was talking about this situation regarding Tom?
Probably. It was the only situation that
you knew of.
That I knew of at the time. And so at the time, again, I didn't have any substantial evidence outside of what I just saw with my own 2 eyes and my own discernment. And the parents were involved in saying everything is okay. So honestly, I was like, I don't have a hill to die on here, because I don't have anything. I have nothing to offer. So I just kind of prayed about this for a while. And then you guys and Julie Royce released the Daystar situation. Let me rewind really fast. So my husband had raised some questions to the pastors. I don't know exactly what the questions were, but he had raised some questions to them, and he was in a meeting where they prophesied over him, and it was a prophecy of death. And I have the audio recording for that. And
wow, what
she
give
said
us more
mortal
information
wound
on that.
Yeah, she basically, like, Gary said some nice things about him over finances, and then she laid her hands on him and said she was praying in tongues a lot.
Was
and then
this
she
Drenda?
said Brenda.
Okay.
She said mortal wound, like, you have a choice to make. So
mortal
he asked
wound.
After,
that was the word she was using, mortal wound.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so then after that, my husband had asked one of the other pastors, and what does that mean? And she said, oh, deadly flesh wound. And he was pretty shaken up by that. And so, especially since it came on the heels of him having just asked a few questions at that meeting regarding another situation entirely. And the timeline's a little fuzzy, but I would say less than a month later, he was fired from his job, and he did. I'm going to put this out there because it's going to be a question that someone's going to say. He did sign an NDA, and it was because he had no knowledge of any of the stuff that we're talking about right now. He had no firsthand knowledge of it, and so he signed an NDA by his own free will, and he wouldn't cover up illegal activity, and NDAs don't cover illegal activity anyway.
Yeah, 100%.
And so I just want to get that out there.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It's very relevant. And Connie,
Yeah.
I'm assuming that would be to do with perhaps finances and
Absolutely.
things like that.
Absolutely.
Not
The tricky part,
not the cover up of
right,
impropriety. Mm-hmm.
You would think so, but the original NDA that was given to him had mine and my children's name on it.
Oh, so you would have to be covered under all of it.
Mm-hmm. And so we had an attorney help us rewrite it to get us taken off of it, and then he
Nice.
signed the NDA. So there's that piece of the puzzle. I just want to throw that out there.
Okay, and I'm just understanding this too, because Drenda and Gary already knew that you were concerned about a situation. So that would make sense that, let's just tie her and the kids in as well.
Mm-hmm,
okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very unusual, I would say.
Right. Yeah, it was not right. And so, okay, so he gets resigned from his job, and the next day you guys break out about Daystar, and I just was able to use that as our voice because I could not talk about the little information that I had, and just based on my own gut instinct of what was going on, plus what I saw with my own 2 eyes, but I had no proof of it. So I used Daystar to talk and use it as my voice. And so then Nicole reached out to me based on my post on Daystar, or about Daystar.
And then that's
And
how
then
the
we
two
got
of you
together.
got connected?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we knew each other, but that's how we connected over this situation.
Okay.
And and then we both kind of were tinkering around on Reddit, trying to figure out who people were and make sure that we weren't getting, fished, and they wanted to make sure they weren't getting fished, and making sure that it's not, Tom, trying to figure out who's talking. So,
wow.
And then we got Emily.
And then we have Emily. And if I could just ask you a couple follow-up questions. So that's a lot that you've just told us.
Yeah.
I want to confirm something, because as a mother, I'm a little bit alarmed, and I want to confirm that this was the impression you got, that the parents were okay. Did the parents know that this young lady had been meeting with Tom alone in the middle of the night? Did I get that right?
Yes. And after the conversation was had with them, and after the conversation was had with Pastor Alicia, the head pastors called the father and the mother of this girl. And basically, he told my husband he had to correct all the lies I spewed about them. And he corrected some things. And, Tom is just a friend of their family. Tom proved that over the summer or the spring by joining a freedom group at their house with their children in the house. So they went on a whole campaign for the rest of that year, in my opinion, to prove how close they are together as families.
So there was no parental protection taking place, that a young lady is spending time with a married, older representative from the church?
Correct. There's even
that...
witnesses at the church that have seen them alone together in rooms, and off the back dock, and there are cameras that eventually can get pulled.
I can see people asking at this point, Connie, about Tom's current wife. Has she been notified? Is she informed of anything?
I'm sure she knows something, because when he quit his job to go pursue his acting/music career, she took over their Halloween play.
Okay.
And he was not in the building, but he was live streaming the practices. And when he would come to a practice, Gary Keesee, his father, escorted him to the practices. So I'm sure that they all know something, but no one knows what.
Okay, so it could be, and we could only surmise this, that alarm bells had gone off, the red flags had been thrown, and all of a sudden everyone's like, okay, we have to make sure that Tom is, he's basically escorted everywhere, because definitely can't be trusted. And now the situation is known. Maybe the wife is actually getting upset. And of course, there is all of these other things with Kirsten's recent taking this to social media, talking about her experience in being molested, basically,
Right.
as a child. And so she's gone public with the essay, and as of basically today, Olivia as well. And
I'm so proud of them.
Oh, this is huge, because these things happen because everyone covers. And it looks like you thought you were doing your part, bringing it to the people that said they were going to, okay, don't worry, thank you, I believe you, we think there's a problem. Because would you say, in what you know, and then I'm going to speak with Emily, but Connie, in everything that you're now gathering from this situation, this potentially is someone who preys on younger people for decades?
That's my opinion, and based on some of the facts that have come out, absolutely. And I just want to say that Pastor Gary did a message last night, and maybe you'll eventually get here, But at the end of it, he said, if there's been any abuse, contact law enforcement and also reach out to our pastoral care team. And I just want to say to any victims that are seeing this, do not reach out to their pastoral care team. Do not. They are covering
100%.
things.